What's happening, party people? It's Pete with Backdraft Bikes. Probably the most excited I've ever been about reviewing a video. LiveWire. Let's do this, baby. I have been wanting to do a LiveWire demo for I don't know how long. This is the LiveWire 1. This is the first one we're going to ride. And just talk a bit about the bike itself. Obviously, it's electric. You're watching this video. These bikes have a lot going for them. Being an EV bike, there just isn't a lot on the market right now. You know, I've thought a lot about this video. I've seen these bikes quite a few times. I think they look cool. The torque and the power and acceleration is something to talk about as well. But, you know, really the biggest question that comes to mind with this is the range. Like, with a gasoline motorcycle, you just pull in, you fill up, and you go. With a LiveWire, what happens? So here's some specs I've got from the manufacturer. This has a maximum range of 146 miles. Most people report about 70 miles on the road is what they can get. Basically, stop-and-go traffic is better because it allows the bike to regenerate, and on the open road, just driving straight forward, it's a little different. The weight on it is 462 pounds, so she is a little bit heavy, if you think about that, for the size of the bike. But it's not that far off of other motorcycles. You get 1,000 Newton meters of torque, which is 737 foot-pounds of torque. Just to put that in perspective, a typical V-twin, you're looking at, what, 100, maybe less foot-pounds of torque? So that's ridiculous. I mean, that's like 10 times the average motorcycle. You can connect your phone to it. You got 17-inch wheels, both front and back. They got a really cool spoke-looking design as well. 5 inches of ground clearance. And, of course, all of the standard features that you get, like ABS, traction control, etc. They do Brembos, believe it or not. But according to what they say is the brakes, you don't use too much in these bikes because of the way that they regenerate. You've got a little bit of a charging port here, and you can see it has the standard EV port. I know there's numbers and things attached to this, but it also has a fast DC port that gives you a quick refueling. And they say that the level 1 charging DC fast actually gives you 35 minutes to go from 20 to 80%. So still not as quick as a gas fuel up, but I mean, you're kind of not going at that. We also have, these bikes have this TFT. Let me see if I can turn this on. And you can see it's got a fuel meter on the bottom. It tells you an approximate miles that you can go on it. Very Harley-esque, and obviously the one is the first bike that they came out with. If you see any of Harley's TFTs, you can see they have lots of different ride modes: eco, rain, road, and sport. Also, you can do adjustable modes. The controls are also Harley Davidson styled. I mean, everything on this bike really is coming from Harley. I don't know, there's a lot to say about it. It's a smaller platform. You can put a passenger on it. I don't know how comfortable that would be. The suspension is adjustable. But really, again, I think the show-stopping thing is going to be the torque and how this thing performs. So let's get on this bike and check it out, shall we? Okay, here we go. What the? So, totally electric. There's like a little vibrator thing in the seat that's kind of pushes you, and it said, this is how you know that it's in haptic mode. Oh look, one already had a problem. Weird. Feels like I'm just rolling a bike. So they put it in rain mode to begin with. I'm gonna change it to street mode. is 0 noise to this at all. And 1 speed, so there's no shifting, there's no clutch. It's the weirdest thing. The position on this bike is very similar to like the Indian FTR, maybe like a speed triple from Triumph. I'm thinking kind of like a Honda Rebel, maybe a little bit. You're a little bit forward, but not bad, but it's pretty tight on the legs. My legs are probably 120 degrees bent. So there's a lot of questions these guys have. We'll talk about as we're riding, but I want to give it a little bit of juice here when we get pulled out. Whoa! I know that doesn't seem like much, but I just gave it a little bit of gas just to see what it would feel like. We're gonna get yelled at, but I don't care. So what does the weight balance on this feel like? Well, it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. It's not super top heavy, but it isn't the same feeling as like the Nightster or the Sportster bikes that I've ridden from Harley. But it has a little bit of flickability to it. Now I apologize, I'm on this demo ride, and of course it's a group ride. The guy in front of us is one of the corporates, so he said don't pass me, so I don't want to make him mad. But he told me that when we get up to the main road, we'll open it up quick. So I'm looking forward to that. I can tell you right now, just the throttle feel, just pushing on it is crazy. It's twisting the throttle. This bike immediately wants to launch. You know, the specs on this bike are kind of crazy. So 0 to 60 time is 3 seconds, which is pretty stinking fast, but the torque output from this bike is insane. 706 or something like that foot-pounds of torque. Do you understand that? 700 foot-pounds of torque on a motorcycle? I mean, that's more than my Toyota Tundra has, quite a bit more. That's more than most diesel performance trucks have. My BMW, what does it have, 100 something around there? So easily between 7 and 10 times more torque than a regular motorcycle. Weird. This can't be right. The speedometer on this cannot be right. 40? Oh, weird. Wow, that is so weird. It has no noise whatsoever. So you're riding it and you're just like, you're having a hard time feeling the bike because it's not making any noise, and you're expecting that it's going to make a lot of noise like a typical motorcycle, but it doesn't. Crazy. As far as the ride quality goes, it's actually pretty good. It's so far. I mean, we're going to be getting on this road right here that's got some bumps, and we'll feel it a little bit better, but now the regen on this is interesting too, because when you hit the brakes, you don't necessarily feel like the brake is stopping you, because the bike itself is looking to slow down and recoup some of that lost energy. So Now this is the LiveWire 1. They also have the Del Mar out now, which is like a little bit of a different bike, more urban warrior style, which we're also gonna demo and put on the channel. But this bike here has a range of approximately 130 miles as advertised. From, again, what I have been told by some of the people that have ridden this before, you don't expect to get more than 95 out of it, 95 to 100, unless you're in the city and you're in stop and go, because that process helps the bike to regen, and that gives you a few extra miles. As far as the highway goes, your constant speed on the motorway is gonna just drain the battery, and it doesn't like that. The other thing that's interesting about this bike with the different modes and such is, imagine you're getting a bike, and you know this bike is a lot for you to handle. You wanna try it in a different manner, and you're nervous about the power. Or let's say you're just starting out and you would typically get like a 250 or something to try to get your sea legs. You can dial the throttle back on this, the throttle response back on this, everything. You can dial it back quite a bit. So it's like a motor that changes size with your riding ability, which I thought was kind of a neat feature when thinking about, you know, swapping out and trying, you know, to not outgrow your bike. So this bike just feels weird. I'll tell you, it's just a weird feeling not having any noise whatsoever. I mean, you can hear the motor. It kind of sounds like I'm riding a golf cart, which is essentially what it is. But the bike itself, just very, very linear power delivery. There's no dead spot like downshifting. There's nothing, and there's no clutch, which is weird. It's just weird not to have a clutch. I found myself moving my hand a few times when I started riding this to look for a clutch. Crazy. As far as the ride comfort goes, it is a little bit on the stiffer side, but this is, you know, supposed to be a sport bike, so I understand why they're doing that. This is very reminiscent of the Nightster S. Very weird feeling. It's just unnatural almost. And I will say on this bike, it feels like you're going faster than you actually are. It's kind of deceitful because the bike has so much torque as soon as you crack the throttle that you feel like you're going really, really fast. Now I'm going to change the mode over to sport mode. And economy, A, road, sport. There we go. So sport mode obviously gives you the least economy for range from your battery, and the only thing that I would say on this bike as far as that goes, I would get range anxiety a little bit because the range is so short on this bike. I would be very cautious about, you know, taking it on a trip because you're not going to be able to charge it quickly unless you're at one of those level 3 chargers. The engineer I talked to at the booth said that the level 3 charging is actually detrimental to the life of the battery. Yikes. So they want you to charge it overnight. So I kind of would say that they almost market the bike like, if you're going to commute to work back and forth, this would be a fun bike to have. But as far as going on like a really long road trip, I mean, I don't really know how you do it. I think it would be difficult because unless you were just planning on driving 100 miles a day and that's it, and then just plugging it in and stopping for the night. You know, my BMW GS Adventure that I have, I can go almost 350 miles on a tank of gas, and I definitely will go on trips where you do that in a day and then some. So technology has got a little bit more, it's got to catch up a little bit more for this to work, for the adventure rider, obviously. Now, if you're thinking about buying one of these bikes, the price point on them isn't super duper crazy high. It's, you know, comparable with other bikes in this model size. It's a little bit more expensive, obviously, but you got to think about the technology that you're getting. With that being said, too, what's the reliability of these bikes, and, you know, how long will the batteries last, and what happens when it breaks down? Is there people that can fix it? So those things there, that's a little scary to me. I have a garage at my house. I like to work on my own bikes. What happens when the bike has a problem on with this type of setup? I'm not sure what you can do except for suspension, brakes, tires, all that stuff. But there's a flip side to that too, right? How many pieces actually have to get maintained? You're not really changing the oil on this, right? I mean, it's an electric motor. You're not doing the traditional maintenance that you would for a gas bike. So there's something to be said for that as well. I would just be very cautious. Like, while we were waiting in line, one of the bikes wouldn't go. They had to push it out of the way, and they kind of did it quickly. If there's a problem with this bike and you're somewhere, you're stuck. You have to go to a dealership, and you have to go to a dealership that's going to support the LiveWire, and not all of the Harley dealers do. All right, now we're back to the back of the track, and we're gonna see what this thing does. Boy, the regen on this is interesting because it's pulling the power kind of from the rear wheel, so it feels like you're dragging the rear brake a little bit when you let off totally. And in sport mode, the regen is there to simulate engine braking. So if I go on and then I let off, the longer you're off, the more it pulls. So there's a nice straight stretch back here. Here we go. We're going to take this corner nice and easy. And of course, he's going super slow. Come on, man. It launches. It does. Okay, so the guy's going a little slow in front of me, but let's just pause just for a second and we'll talk about this. The bike itself is cool technology. I think the range is a no deal for me. Is it super fast? No, it actually is not. I would not say that this bike is rip your arms off ridiculous fast. Is it weird and different? Yes, it is, because there's no noise. It feels like you're driving like a golf cart scooter and it's completely quiet. But that being said, it's going to be interesting to see the Delray version of this that we're about to try, because this is Harley's reboot on that model. Have you ridden one of these bikes? I'd like to know your thoughts on it. Hit me up in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are as far as your experiences riding the bike. I'd be curious to hear. As always, I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you for subscriptions, and ride safe out there.